to the Blissful Badger. I have quite the collection of miniatures, and I have been looking for years for the right storage container that was inexpensive, modular, and worked well with all of the different minis I had. And over the years, I've tried many of products, including the old hard case with foam. I've tried the metal baking sheets, which work well for storage. I've tried wash basins. I've used the top of coffee cans. I've even used the baking tin with lid. I've used fishing tackle boxes for storing models and bits. I've tried clear plastic containers, and I've even purchased some of the really expensive magnetic tray cases. And each of these were reasonable storage solutions to certain extents, but I have an idea that takes all of the different objects, and I think I finally figured out what the best way to do it is, for my collection at least. And maybe it'll be right for you. So the foam tray option is perfectly fine for the older models, but as model scale increases and base sizes get larger, and the detail of the models become wider and larger and possibly more easily broken, they've gotten a little bit less viable, and they're also not very inexpensive. So I have my bolt action minis in them right now, but I also haven't painted any of my bolt action, so it's not going to wear off any paint or anything like that. For baking sheets, they're perfectly fine for magnetized models. They're easily moved around for each project, but they have a fatal flaw of there's no way to protect them from dust. Dust is all over these things, so I want to do something that is enclosed. Wash bins were one of the earlier ideas I had, and they work perfectly fine for storing models on sprue. They don't have any good solution to dust prevention, and they're also not very good at stacking. But they were a decent alternative to not having a storage use. The metal baking tray with plastic lid works quite well for magnetized models. They're not too expensive. They're a little under $10 a piece. But the biggest problem with them is that they're only about 2 inches tall. And some models will fit there, but there are a lot of larger models out there now, and that means that these don't always work exactly how I would like them. The nice magnetized case that I have, I've purchased 2 of them and some extra trays, and the container itself is about $100, and it's nice and solid and sturdy and can handle transporting a reasonable sized force. And the magnetic trays are about $6 a piece. So they're not too bad to get extras, and if you have a place to store them, it does give you that option to swap out which ones you're using. But when you have a lot of armies, it's not always time. There's not always a good justification for swapping out each army as you need them. fishing tackle boxes don't have any padding, and so things will rattle around, and when I was using them for my Tyranids, I would normally have 1 to 2 pieces break every single time I made a trip to the game shop. And then I found these sweater boxes. They're a decent size, they have a lid, they're clear so I can see through them and see what's actually in there. As a container on their own, models just move around. And I've tried figuring out alternatives like the expensive magnetic tray shelves. They do kind of fit in there, but they still can move around side to side, and I wouldn't want to tip them over. But it is better than a huge pile of models just laying in a box. And I've even used clear plastic containers to hold the magnetic trays from the storage boxes. But there is a good thing, and that is they also have 20-quart boxes that can handle things like Mortarion inside and Flying Hive Tyrants. So there is a benefit in the fact that they are modular, there are multiple sizes, and they all stack. So what did I find as the final solution that I'm going to spend the time and money to change my whole collection into? Glad you asked. I already found that I really enjoyed the sweater boxes. Being able to fit 2 of them on top of each other in each of these cubbies is absolutely a benefit. So I just needed to find a good way to make them magnetized. And I know that people suggest magnet sheets and cutting it out and everything like that, but I was looking for a simpler solution, something that was easier to find, and I think I found it. This is galvanized step flashing. And this 4-inch by 4-inch by 8-inch piece with a 90-degree angle in it was 64 cents at the hardware store. And so I picked up 3 of these. I can fit all 3 inside of here. Alternatively, I could take one of these and fold it flat. It's not too hard. I mean, it's galvanized steel sheeting. I could flatten this and have one on the upper and one laying down flat. Or, if I didn't want to deal with that, and I was willing to order something shipped, they sell 8-inch by 12-inch galvanized steel step flashing. And this fits perfectly fine in the bottom of this container. And so I just need to find the right adhesive to go between metal and plastic. So while I was at the hardware store, I bought some liquid nails. And we're going to see how this works to bond the metal to the plastic. Because this 10 fluid ounce container should be able to handle a good 20 to 30 boxes. And when the boxes are about $3 a piece, the taller ones are $5 or $6 a piece, and the metal sheeting is about $1.50 a sheet. Even adding glue, they should be less than $5 a piece, and it will be a clear storage container with a magnetized base with a lid that fit in my shelves. So a single container of liquid nails successfully glued down more than half of the trays that I bought. And since the bottoms are not 100% flat and the metal bows a little bit, there's a little bit of give in these. And same with the metal. It doesn't always want to sit flat. I put down a object to hold it down flat, and I put weights down so that it'll hold in place. And since I'm doing so many of them, it just needs one heavy weight at the top. And make sure you have your containers empty and ready to go, because as I was going, I realized I had to dump that into a tray, and that into a tray, and that came out of a container. And this will probably take a solid day before I'm gonna test to see how they glue. Well, I managed to get a lot more organized. I have all of the magnetized sheet containers with a light green lid instead of a white lid. The white lids are still good for all of the other organization. I have my spearheads painted and playable in a dark green lid, and I have the terrain, the book, and another unit, another spearhead to paint right here. And I still need to get some more, but I managed to glue 25 sheets with one tube of liquid nails. So I need to get more storage containers and more metal before I do the next batch, which I definitely have need of and plenty of space for. So I'm looking forward to having even more organizing in the future. But for now, I need to glue down some magnets on these models because they currently don't have the magnet. And then they can get put into the containers. So I'm going to get that done, and I'll catch you in the next video. Subscribe if you haven't, so that you don't miss any future videos. I also want to thank my patrons and supporters for making these videos possible. And until next time, I hope you find your bit of bliss.